It's going to be copy-paste. Books are, not good. Win total's a tick too low. Knock it right over. Make playoff price tick too juicy. Bang it out. Postseason comes around on a tee. Knock their heads off.
I don't think the Steelers organization just makes a move to make a move. They have to have, it's like being in the book. You have to know what you're going to move the line to.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Talk about it failing and always putting the square peg into the round hole. We're going to run it. We're going to try and play these lower scoring games. They didn't score over 17 points in the 5 straight losses.
There's a chance for the Ravens to exercise every single demon on their way to a Super Bowl. But it also means the path is very difficult and things are only getting started.
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Hello and welcome to a Wednesday Live right here on the Early Line on SportsGrid and all across the SportsGrid network. That includes sportsgrid.com/watch, where you can find your favorite destination and consume everything all across the grid. He is Donnie Rightside. I am Ben Stevens. We are here together for the next 3 hours up until 11 a.m. Eastern Time, a Wednesday morning to look back on a monster Tuesday night slate in college basketball. A Tuesday night slate in the conference portion of this college hoop season that even has one DRS excited to break down everything we saw. A ton of top 25 programs in action. Basically everybody in the SEC playing against a ranked foe. We'll break down everything we saw from Tuesday, look forward to Wednesday, go around the association, and we will sit here on this Wednesday as well. Now just a few short days out from the start of maybe the best weekend of football each and every season, the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. We will break down each and every game. We will ask big picture questions for these 4 divisional round matchups and play our favorite game, buy or sell, as we get going in the early portion of the NFL offseason for some as well.
Absolutely. And yesterday, my Ken Palm subscription ran out, re-upped it here. But yesterday, Ben, I did absolutely nothing. You want to talk about football? Saturday, I had to be in the studio. Sunday in the studio. And Monday in the studio. I needed that day yesterday to recoup, to make sure I had enough energy for the people today to absolutely get after it. And I got to say this. This is probably the latest, Ben, that I've been involved in the NBA. Could care less right now. College basketball, haven't watched more than 10 minutes of it. Been keeping an eye on it, looking at some of the standings here, seeing what a powerhouse that SEC now is in basketball as opposed to football. Some good things are on the horizon. But my goodness, when I look at this weekend's Saturday, Sunday action, particularly that Sunday night football game between the Bills and the Ravens, it doesn't get any better. Ben, we've had maybe one of the best NFL seasons we've seen with the teams we're looking to collide late in weeks here in the playoffs, coupled with the absolute best college football season we've ever seen, the best playoffs we've ever seen, because we haven't seen them before. Teams that needing to win 4 games to win a national championship in football, it's never been better. And the energy for me today, it's going to be broad.
Well, I am glad you are rested. I am glad you re-upped your Ken Palm subscription for when football season comes to a close. And like you, DRS, I am also glad that the final game of 4 in the divisional round is an absolute marquee matchup that we will discuss later on over these 3 hours. Let's start on this Wednesday morning by looking back on the biggest news from a Tuesday night. The new number 1 team in the country in men's college basketball. That is Auburn, ranked number 1 for the second time in program history, first time since the middle portion of 2022. But DRS having to do this without the nation's best player and perhaps the Wooden Award winner had he remained fully healthy all year. Johni Broome injured his ankle over the weekend, out for at least a few weeks. So how would the number 1 Tigers respond at home against a top 15 foe in Mississippi State? Pretty well. They win by 22 points, easily covering as an 8.5-point favorite. In the absence of Broome, 5 Auburn players scoring in double figures, led by Chad Baker-Mazara, who dropped 20 against Chris Jans and the Bulldogs.
How about that first half, Ben? 46-27. It was a wrap at the break. And as we say, it is hard to win games on the road, particularly against the number 1 team in the country, even though they didn't have their best player. What do we know is the ultimate equalizer? It's the three-point line. 12.5% from three-point range for Mississippi State. You're going to lose damn near every game that you shoot that low percentage. But credit the Auburn Tigers. Without your best player winning by 22 against a tough top 15 opponent, that's impressive, people.
The Tigers a perfect 4-0 in the gauntlet that is the Southeastern Conference. First game last night, not booked as a double-digit favorite. Auburn does cover. Elsewhere in the SEC, a couple of road teams go on the road and play spoiler, including unranked Missouri into Gainesville against 5th-ranked Florida, led behind Caleb Grill in 22 points, including a couple of clutch late free throws. Mizzou pulls off the upset, winning outright as a double-digit dog against the Gators, 83-82.
Yeah, held them off down the stretch there. You see, shooting 62% from the free throw line. That's the worst way to try to win a game on the road, but they were able to pull that one out. If you're looking at the turnover battle, it's always nice, Ben. You go on the road against a quality opponent and turn it over less than 10 times, you'll always be in the ball game. Enough to win it after a monster first half by the Tigers.
Mizzou has won 3 straight in the SEC. Keep an eye on Dennis Gates and his Tigers. Another top 25 tilt in the SEC. Rinse, wash, and repeat in Tuscaloosa. And another road team, as a double-digit dog, wins outright. That would be 21st-ranked Ole Miss, winning outright as an 11.5-point road underdog against the Crimson Tide of Alabama. Holding the second most efficient offense in the country, DRS, to only 64 points. 74-64, the victory for the Runnin' Reds.
We could equate it to football season, Ben. Go on the road, win the turnover battle. Look at what they did yesterday. 21 turnovers for Alabama only. How about that? 7 turnovers for Ole Miss. Keep yourself in the basketball game that way. They absolutely did that. Big win for the Rebs.
This guy's going to be looking at turnover margin all season long on Kenneth Pomeroy. And by the way, the Tide, who we know like to run and gun and shoot the three, did not do so very well at home last night. Just 5 of 20 from deep. Now to the storylines in the NBA. The suspended superstar for the Miami Heat, Jimmy Butler, met in person yesterday, DRS, with Pat Riley and reinforced his trade request to be shipped away from the Heat ahead of the deadline.
What did they think, Jimmy Butler, after being so angry all this year, demanding trades left and right, that once they sat down for a nice lunch, you'd be like, you know what, I really like being with the Miami Heat. This guy's wanted out, it feels like, from day one of this season. Let him. You're not going to improve your situation for the Miami Heat until he is gone at this point. He's more of an addition by subtraction guy. You got to get rid of him. You got to get something back. He can't hold out too much longer.
The Heat 20-18. Jimmy Butler's suspension is up tomorrow. We will see who makes that first move. Now to the NFL, even for teams, DRS, still competing in the NFL postseason, some roster maneuvers. The Texans waive wide receiver Deontay Johnson, who has played for 4 different NFL franchises in the last 10 months or so. This offseason, he left Pittsburgh, dealt to the Carolina Panthers, cut by the Panthers, goes to Baltimore, cut by the Ravens, and now ends up in Houston and won't even be there as the Texans get ready for a divisional round matchup in Kansas City on Saturday.
4 teams that we're talking about, 3 teams that went to the playoffs, winning organizations, and 1 team that actually brought him in to be the number 1 wide receiver to help kickstart an organization maybe to winning. He's failed at every single spot. It's called being a professional football player. He's not being very professional with his career right now.
Yeah, it's an interesting timeline for Deontay Johnson. We'll see who that lucky number 5 team is in the NFL, if there is one in this calendar year. For other teams, it's about using the bye week if you were the 1 seed in your conference to rest up and get healthy. Just a walkthrough yesterday in the Motor City, but David Montgomery was out there for all of it. The Lions running back, the pair known as Sonic and Knuckles, alongside Jahmyr Gibbs, might be at full health DRS for Saturday night as Detroit gets ready to host the Washington Commanders.
The rich get richer, and this is where you have the biggest advantage if you're the 1 seeds waiting at home on a short week for another team that had to play last week when you had the week off here. Let's see what Detroit has. By the way, FanDuel has their team total, Ben, for a playoff game. 33.5. Goodness.
Makes sense for the best scoring offense in the National Football League. Jahmyr Gibbs, pretty good, by the way, in the 3-game absence for Montgomery to end out the regular season. TGL, the golf league that is indoors in Palm Beach, that's been pretty fun, was last night. Tiger Woods makes his debut, but his Jupiter Links club gets absolutely smashed by LAGC.
But let me ask you this question. Make me commissioner of this, because whoever's running this is doing it wrong. It's a digital game. They're basically, it's a digital game you're playing. Why is this rigged for Tiger, where every drive is 340 down the center and also easily hitting the green whenever he wants to at this point? Who is programming this? Make Tiger the superstar and have him unbeatable in this game. Don't actually go in the opposite direction. What are we doing here?
It's a great question. College basketball recaps next.
Talk about it failing and always putting the square peg into the round hole. We're going to run it. We're going to try and play these lower scoring games. They didn't score over 17 points in the 5 straight losses.
There's a chance for the Ravens to exercise every single demon on their way to a Super Bowl. But it also means the path is very difficult and things are only getting started.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
It's going to be copy-paste. Books are not good. Win total's a tick too low. Knock it right over. Make playoff price tick too juicy. Bang it out. Postseason comes around on a tee. Knock their heads off.
I don't think the Steelers organization just makes a move to make a move. They have to have, it's like being in the book. You have to know what you're going to move the line to.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Jimmy Butler wants to leave because Jimmy Butler knows that Riles isn't going to pay him, and he wants to get paid. Simply put, if they would have given Jimmy Butler this contract extension in the summer when he asked, this wouldn't be happening. But Riles did it, and Riles wanted him to play. So now he's disgruntled because he wants out.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Statement from Giants president John Mara. Joe Shane and Brian Daboll will continue in their respective roles with the organization. As disappointing as the results of the season have been, Steve Tisch and I remain confident in the process that Joe and Brian have implemented.
The Giants, an absolute train wreck, and I love it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Live right here on this Wednesday morning on the Early Line on SportsGrid, looking back on a monumental and marquee Tuesday night slate all around the country in college basketball. But DRS, when you have 4 teams ranked in the top 6 of the AP poll this week, when you have 6 teams in the top 11, 7 in the top 15, there's going to be a lot of ranked versus ranked matchups that own our attention in the SEC. That is the case around the Southeastern Conference. The SEC is the powerhouse in college football in 2024. Not so much. The SEC as the powerhouse by far in college basketball in 24-25? Yeah, I'll hear that argument, including the number one team in the country, now atop the poll, the Auburn Tigers, but doing battle last night in a top 15 tilt on the Plains against 15th-ranked Mississippi State without their best player in Janai Broome, injured in the second half over the weekend, DRS, against South Carolina. Probably going to miss a couple of weeks for the Tigers, but first game without Broome, no issue for the new number one team in the nation. Auburn wins by 22, easily covering as an 8.5-point favorite at home. 5 players filling the void of Janai Broome, scoring in double figures.
Yeah, you never want to see your best player go down or a superstar player in the country go down, as we like to view that and certainly enjoy college basketball. But at the same time, this is when, if you are going to suffer an injury, it doesn't look like it's going to be all that long term, to see how your team is going to respond. And it's great to have one of those response games at home, particularly against a top 20 team. They came right out of the gate, 46-27 in the first half, and never looked back. That's equally impressive if they go to 4-0. So if you are a coach looking at your basketball team and saying, okay, what happens if we don't have this guy around, and maybe late in the season, if he fouls out late in a big game, or let's just say another sprained ankle, has to miss a game or two, you can always look back at these games and say, guys, we've been here before. We've stepped up to the occasion, already been able to do this. Now, we like to talk about this as well, Ben, by saying you can get that 1 or 2 game, hey, let's cover for the big guy here. But if this turns into 3, 4, 5 games, let's really see what the Auburn Tigers are made of. But they passed the first test as the number one team at home against the top 15 without their best player in impressive fashion.
And Chris Jans' team, known for defense really always in his coaching career, the Bulldogs allowed 95 at home over the weekend. They also just gave up 88 on the road to an Auburn team without Janai Broome. A couple of road teams, though, victorious as double-digit dogs last night. Ole Miss winning outright in Tuscaloosa as an 11.5-point dog by 10, 74-64, keeping the nation's second most efficient offense in the Crimson Tide to only 64 points, 5 of 20 from 3, and well under a pregame total of 163 and a hook. And how about unranked Missouri? The Tigers go on the road to Gainesville and pull off the upset over 5th-ranked Florida as a 10.5-point underdog, winning outright by a single point, 83-82, behind a big night from the grad transfer formerly of Iowa State, who has been in Columbia for a few years. 22 points from Mizzou's Caleb Grill.
Boy, going on the road and beating top 5 teams here, you saw Ole Miss and Missouri, but also 2 different tales here from these games. You saw Ole Miss, which is maybe even more impressive, down 4 points at the break and then winning 42-28 in the opposing team's building, where you had Missouri run after that early lead of 50-34 in the first half and hold on in the second half. As we like to say, it's hard to win on the road. It's even harder to win on the road against top 5 opponents. Those 2 teams did that, which shows you really the depth of the SEC right now, which is impressive.
Other scores around the SEC, Kentucky in a top 15 tilt against Texas A&M outlast the Aggies after trailing early 81-69. The Cats and Mark Pope looking pretty good, covering as a 6.5-point home favorite in Rupp. John Calipari and his Arkansas Razorbacks, winless, 0-4 DRS to start off SEC play, losing by 4 against the Bayou Bengals of LSU.
Yeah, his press conference is probably going to get better and better and better as long as they keep losing in SEC play. Some of the excuses here. We always remember the minute he arrived at Arkansas and said, I don't have a single player here. I don't even know if we're going to field a team this year. Well, he already set the table for what they were going to do. They're 11-6, but the key component in a tough SEC, they're 0-4 right out of the gate. And I don't care what he's trying to rebuild. For Calipari, that's unacceptable.
It certainly is. And not just 0-4 straight up, 0-4 ATS. Last night, basically a pick'em, maybe a short underdog on the road in Baton Rouge. But there is more college basketball outside of the SEC. Man, things are bad for Miami after the departure of Jim Larinaga. And even before Coach L retired in Coral Gables, things are very good for the young Duke Blue Devils that are playing like a wagon right now, making rough shot across the ACC. A 35-point win at home, 89-54. The Dukies DRS, a 24.5-point favorite. They cruise and cover.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy when you look at Miami, and they are in turmoil right now. Might have to kick up that NIL game massively in the offseason to get back into the ACC, which also isn't all that talented this year compared to some of the other power conferences. But when you look at the lineup, Johnson, Kidd, Schwartz, Bethea, and Cleveland, the only one I recognize is Matthew Cleveland here. What a tough scene as they're now dropping to 0-6 and 4-13 on the season after a few short years away from making the Final Four. That's a tough blow. But the Duke Blue Devils, they're on it right now. 15-2, 7-0 in the conference, cruising, superstar power all over the place. And my guy Khan last night leading the way, Ben. How about that?
Con Knipple, 6 triples last night for the other star freshman for the Blue Devils. Cooper Flagg after 42 over the weekend against Notre Dame, an ACC freshman scoring record. 13 points, but still 7 boards and 6 dimes. How about an overtime thriller in Chicago? Marquette outlasts DePaul 85-83. The Blue Demons cover as a 13.5-point dog. Chris Holtman off to a good start, and DRS a historically bad night inside Assembly Hall in Bloomington. Illinois wins 94-69, a 25-point margin, the second largest ever home loss inside Assembly Hall for the Hoosiers. They were chanting, "Fire Woodson." It seems as though Mike Woodson might be out very soon for IU.
Yeah, he was embattled for a while there at Indiana, and it turns out losses like that certainly aren't going to help you there. But also, when you talk about losses, who's known to be losing a lot of games? It's DePaul. 0-7 once again in their Big East start this season. Haven't won a game, I believe, Ben, in 2 years at this point there. When are they getting, by the way, when are they getting kicked out of the Big East? Don't tell me we need the Chicago market when this team isn't even competitive. One iota out there. One iota.
Look, competitive. They bring Marquette to overtime and cover as a 13.5-point dog. We'll go around the NBA next.
It's going to be copy-paste. Books are not good. Win total's a tick too low. Knock it right over. Make playoff price tick too juicy. Bang it out. Postseason comes around on a tee. Knock their heads off.
I don't think the Steelers organization just makes a move to make a move. They have to have, it's like being in the book. You have to know what you're going to move the line to.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Talk about it failing and always putting the square peg into the round hole. We're going to run it. We're going to try and play these lower scoring games. They didn't score over 17 points in the 5 straight losses.
There's a chance for the Ravens to exercise every single demon on their way to a Super Bowl. But it also means the path is very difficult and things are only getting started.
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
A Wednesday morning on the Early Line, but a recap and reaction now to a Tuesday night around the association in the NBA. A couple of long winning streaks came to a close last night for two respective teams. The longest active in the association entering Tuesday, the Kings with the interim head coach Doug Christie. they get beat pretty sound in Milwaukee as the Bucks win 130-115, covering as a 2-point home favorite, which is not something Milwaukee has done often this year. 11-16-1 ATS as a favorite entering yesterday. Now make that 12 covers. The Pacers had the longest active win streak, including a win against the Cavaliers on Sunday, the NBA's best team. It was 6 games in a row for Indiana, the best in the Eastern Conference. That comes to a close in Indianapolis with no Tyrese Halliburton in the lineup for the Pacers. Donovan Mitchell scores 35 and the Cavaliers win by double digits. They cover as an 8.5-point favorite.
Yeah, those 2 games here, lean on your superstars, right? As you just pointed out, 35-9 from Donovan Mitchell in that 10-point victory. Then you look at the Bucks at home and a 15-point victory. Another ho-hum effort here from Giannis Antetokounmpo, 33, 11, and 13. That is incredible for a big man, picking up 13 assists in that game. But that's what they do. 2 good performances, 2 good wins by those 2 teams in the East.
Giannis Antetokounmpo, third best price to win the NBA MVP award at 20-1. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander still remains the minus money favorite at -170. By the way, no Luka Doncic continuously for the Dallas Mavericks because of the 65-game minimum. He is already out of consideration for that MVP hardware. Elsewhere, DRS, no Joel Embiid last night for the Philadelphia 76ers against the Western Conference's best team. That would be OKC. The Thunder close as a 13-point road favorite in Philadelphia. They make good on that number, winning 118-102, winning by 16. And we mentioned SGA, death taxes around a 30-point performance from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 32 last night against the Sixers.
Yeah, won easily last night. I had 2 games last night that I eyeballed for having 2 underdogs. One was the Pelicans, which we'll talk about, got a victory over the Bulls. One was the Philadelphia 76ers getting 12 points, which ballooned to 16.5 at game time. Do you see that final score, 118-102? Reason being is Maxey and George probably were supposed to play. Maxey sits that out, which means George, Maxey, and Embiid sat out because why? They have a doubleheader, or a back-to-back on deck with the Knicks tonight, decided to tank the game against a much better Thunder team to try to go up against another Eastern Conference team in the Knicks. But it would have been nice to know that earlier in the day, but that's the NBA for you. You never know until that absolute final 30 minutes, hour before the game, who's going to be in that lineup. The Sixers absolutely brought nothing to the table, which is basically what they've been doing the entire season.
The Olympic superstar for the French, Guerschon Yabusele, 17 points, leading scorer in the starting 5. Justin Edwards, 25 points to lead the way for Philly off the bench. I mean, you're in Philadelphia, or the greater Philly area, if you will. If we played who he played for on the Sixers right now, I'm not sure you could pick them out.
No, I don't even know where he went to college at this point here, so it's not like me scoping the game. Was there any reason to even tune into that game for you? Like, that was a home game for the Sixers, who probably before this, like, hey, man, let me buy a ticket to see OKC, an up-and-coming team, and you got that type of environment there. Probably booed the entire night longer. Maybe nobody even showed up to that game. By the way, Sixers, very, very lucky. The Eagles are good and continuing their run. Once the Eagles lose, or if they win a championship and the eyes turn to the Sixers, it's going to get ugly in the city of brotherly love. Trust me on that.
They better stop tanking games and play people because at 15-23 right now, nearing the halfway point of this NBA season, not a lot of time to turn things around before the eyes of the city of brotherly love. Tune in on Sixers basketball and not Eagles football. Triple-double for Nikola Jokic last night, but only with 10 points. He didn't need to score a ton as Jamal Murray posts 45 points as the Nuggets rout the Mavs at home, or on the road, in Dallas as a 3.5-point favorite. Kyrie Irving returned last night, DRS, but still with no Luka Doncic. The Mavs have dropped 7 of 9 games. They also, in 6 games as a dog, have not covered in those 7 losses.
We always talk about the flexing of games in the NFL, right? So you flip it over to the NBA. The Sixers are supposed to have a national game against the Dallas Mavericks, yanked off of the national television scene. And quite frankly, I don't even think we'd mind in Philadelphia. It was just blacked out altogether when they play.
The Hawks beat the Suns. The Pels get a weird win against the Bulls. Here are the NBA championship odds. Still basically a 2-team race from the odds perspective. Celtics, Thunder, narrowly separated. The best team in the NBA, the Cavaliers, though, closing that gap, per se, at plus 750. NFL news and notes from this week next.
It's going to be copy-paste. Books are, not good. Win total's a tick too low. Knock it right over. Make playoff price tick too juicy. Bang it out. Postseason comes around on a tee. Knock their heads off.
I don't think the Steelers organization just makes a move to make a move. They have to have, it's like being in the book. You have to know what you're going to move the line to.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Talk about it failing and always putting the square peg into the round hole. We're going to run it. We're going to try and play these lower scoring games. They didn't score over 17 points in the 5 straight losses.
There's a chance for the Ravens to exercise every single demon on their way to a Super Bowl. But it also means the path is very difficult and things are only getting started.
Pro Football Today. Only on SportsGrid.
NFL news and notes from around the National Football League. Of course, for some of those teams, either still in the postseason, getting ready for a full week of practice before the divisional round, the NFL's Final 8, or the coaching carousel as it continues to go round and round in the NFL. DRS, his 4th team in the last 10 months or so. That's the wide receiver Deontay Johnson. Dealt this offseason from Pittsburgh, Team 1, to Carolina, the Panthers, Team 2. Didn't really do much in Carolina. He was released, made his way to Baltimore, cut by the Ravens. That's team number 3. Found his way to the Houston Texans, team number 4, and will not even be with Houston after only 2 games as the Texans get ready for a divisional round matchup in Arrowhead on Saturday against KC. I don't necessarily know what the issue is with Deontay Johnson, but what I can tell you is it's not on the 4 teams that have had him as a wide receiver. Seems to be an individual thing for Johnson.
Yeah, it seems to be like a you problem from him, right? Not the, it's always everybody's fault. You might be able to buy that, like, boy, I don't know what's going on with the Steelers, but we're just not a fit anymore. Let me go down to Carolina. We're trying to break in a young quarterback. I should be the focal point of the offense. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm not playing good football. I'm not focused because we don't know what he's doing in the team meetings and off-season programs. Then you go to winning organizations like the Baltimore Ravens go, hey, look, we don't throw it 50 times a game, but boy, we could use you here and just get into the mold where we win around here. We work hard and we have fun, and he couldn't fit there. And then he finds a spot in the Texans, which were so desperate at wide receiver just to get healthy bodies. And then you hear about after the football game, he's upset in the locker room because he wasn't the focal point of a playoff win when you have a guy like Nico Collins on your football team. That's going to get you cut quickly here. So you know what, Ben? You know who's perfect? Like Deontay Johnson. Hear me out on this. I'm glad we do this stuff like live on the air. He's going to be a Cincinnati Bengal in the offseason. When they lose T. Higgins and Jamar Chase doesn't want to play the first month of the season, Mike Brown will be like, now's the time to step in. This guy used to be good. Yeah. We can get him for $850,000 a year. He will be a Cincinnati Bengal next year. Congratulations, Bengal fans. That's your number 1 wideout.
DRS, you and Mike Brown on the same page always. Would make some sense, I guess, at a discount, but there is clearly an issue with Deontay Johnson. If I was an NFL organization, I would stay pretty far away. Now some news from practice for teams that are playing on Saturday. Really yesterday, first full day back on the practice field, even if those teams that had an extra week of rest as the 1 seed in either conference had a bye weekend, they're still just getting back in gear, shaking off the rust. That was the case for the Lions yesterday as they get ready for Saturday night, hosting the Commanders. And David Montgomery back on the practice field for the Lions. Just a walkthrough, but still positive injury news for Detroit, which is where the pendulum is starting to swing for the Lions, because in the final month of the regular season, DRS, including that knee injury to David Montgomery initially, it seemed like it was doom and gloom everywhere. The Lions getting healthier, Alex Anzalone back, David Montgomery expected to play on Saturday night against the Commanders as well.
Yeah, that's a good football team. They're rested. They're ready. They're having a game where they're basically double-digit favorites here, which they're going to line up, let's just say, against the Philadelphia Eagles, as it looks like based on the odds in the NFC Championship game. But this is really good for them because now you actually have a game. And look, we're not saying this is an automatic win here for Detroit. Washington's going to be pretty game in that game. Whether they can win the game, we'll see. But this is the perfect time to say, you know what, let's run him out there in game time, flow, where he's missed a couple games here, see how that knee reacts. And if it's good, great. You give him 5 to 6 touches in that game, and then you really start to ramp him up in that Eagles game, if it is the Eagles in that game. And if you win that, then you get, Ben, the extra bye week again before the Super Bowl, where now you're looking at he could be fully 100% along with Gibbs for the Super Bowl. That would be impressive. Yeah. So good news for the Detroit Lions, bad news for everybody else trying to stop that backfield.
Jahmyr Gibbs has been incredible, though, in the 3-game absence to end the regular season of David Montgomery. In all 3 games that it was just Knuckles in the backfield, not having Sonic, at least 154 scrimmage yards for Jahmyr Gibbs. That, of course, was capped off by the best game of his career on the most significant stage, the regular season finale, to claim the 1 seed and the NFC North for a second straight year against the Vikings. 23 carries, 139 yards, 3 rushing scores for Gibbs, 31 receiving yards on 5 grabs, and a touchdown as well. A 4 total touchdown game. I am not saying the addition of David Montgomery will be a subtraction, just to say that even without him, the Lions offense has been playing very, very well. But good news just to get everybody back at full health, or at least those that can return for Detroit entering the divisional round. DRS Tyler Higbee, who was injured in last year's playoffs against the Detroit Lions, missed the entirety of this year up until week 16, played in his 4th game on Monday night for the Rams against the Vikings, and had 5 grabs for 58 yards early in the opening half, became the factor of that offense, only to leave the game with a chest contusion, spent some time in the hospital because, as Sean McVay said, he was spitting up a little blood, but still, Higbee expects to play on Sunday in Philadelphia.
Yeah, exit that game where he's having a very good performance. He's also he's like the new Cooper Kupp, I guess, of that team, where he gets the plays and not Cooper Kupp. So that was an injury that we didn't know what it was live on the desk, because anytime you hear chest injury, maybe it's a torn pectoral muscle or, bruising or whatever it was, but it looks like more precautionary, because that's big. They're going to need all hands on deck at every position if they want to tangle with the Eagles on the road this weekend. That's big news. If he can play, that's a good bump there for the Rams, no doubt.
6.5-point spread in favor of the Birds at home, up from 5.5. The total creeping up as well, 43 and a hook to 44.5, which is notable for 2 outstanding defensive performances out of the Birds and the Rams to start off the postseason. And maybe on the sideline, we'll get more passages from inner excellence on Sunday afternoon as well out of A.J. Brown, if it is yet another defensive display. Phillies head coach Nick Sirianni saying yesterday, DRS, he had no problem with A.J. Brown getting in a good read on Sunday afternoon. Now, again, you are there in the greater Philly area. You tune into Philly Sports Talk Radio. What's been the conversation around the avid reader, A.J. Brown?
It's a lot of jokes and a lot of fun, as it should be. Had they lost that football game, host here in Philadelphia would have been asking for him to be removed once again from the football team. That's the way it goes. When you're winning, it's not that big of a deal. And quite frankly, if he was reading anything but an inspirational book, you probably couldn't get away with it. But you can sort of say, wide receivers are space cadets as they can be. So it does make sense where a hot-headed wideout's like, look, I don't want to throw my helmet into the stands or make a mockery of my team. This is the way I'm absolutely calming down, reading the quick passage, sort of taking a couple deep breaths and getting back in there. It's almost like, Ben, when I miss TEL, like you probably have a couple inspirational books behind there just to try to get you through those shows without me, right? I mean, I see what happens.
I mean, listen, sometimes it can be a drag. I need to practice patience and make sure that I am ready to go. DRS Inner Excellence now on Amazon is up 53 million % in sales week over week. Was something like the 500,000, 300 and whatever book, it was not doing well. Now is a top seller on Amazon because of A.J. Brown. How about that? Have you bought your copy?
No, I haven't, but it just got, like, honestly, like, to get them to be like a bestseller now, do you have to sell like just 3 books because nobody reads books anymore? Like, if one person bought that book, it probably goes from 500,000 all the way down to number 1 at this point, because who actually is buying books at this point anymore?
Sounds like a guy that doesn't have a Kindle. The Cleveland Browns have hired a new offensive coordinator, former Notre Dame star quarterback Tommy Rees, who was the OC for both Notre Dame and Alabama under Nick Saban, worked with the Browns this past year as a tight ends coach, now promoted to OC. Only 32 years old, DRS, turns 33 in May.
Yeah, we're throwing the word star around a little liberally here for Tommy Rees back at Notre Dame and as a superstar. But this,
Notre Dame
this is Kevin Stefanski's team. He's going to take over the play caller. So hopefully things go well. Maybe one day he'll get to be the play caller. But it's an advance for him. But I don't see too many people in Cleveland getting excited based on what they're bringing to the table next year.
Listen, Tommy Rees, if you've seen any of his videos from the booth when he's talking to a quarterback, electric. Man wears his emotions on his sleeve and in his face. Should be fun, especially if he has to call plays for Jameis Winston. More on the early line next.
Talk about it failing and always putting the square peg into the round hole. We're going to run it. We're going to try and play these lower scoring games. They didn't score over 17 points in the 5 straight losses.
There's a chance for the Ravens to exercise every single demon on their way to a Super Bowl. But it also means the path is very difficult and things are only getting started.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
It's going to be copy-paste. Books up, not good. Win total's a tick too low. Knock it right over. Make playoff price tick too juicy. Bang it out. Postseason comes around on a tee. Knock their heads off.
I don't think the Steelers organization just makes a move to make a move. They have to have, it's like being in the book. You have to know what you're going to move the line to.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Jimmy Butler wants to leave because Jimmy Butler knows that Riles isn't going to pay him, and he wants to get paid. Simply put, if they would have given Jimmy Butler this contract extension in the summer when he asked, this wouldn't be happening. But Riles did it, and Riles wanted him to play. So now he's disgruntled because he wants out.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Statement from Giants president John Mara. Joe Shane and Brian Daboll will continue in their respective roles with the organization. As disappointing as the results of the season have been, Steve Tisch and I remain confident in the process that Joe and Brian have implemented.
The Giants, an absolute train wreck, and I love it.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
NFL news and notes continues. Now back in the coaching carousel. As we learned earlier this week, the Cowboys and Mike McCarthy parting ways, which means McCarthy is now a free agent. 6 head coaching vacancies around the National Football League, including that one at the Star. But as the prospects for Mike McCarthy go, the Chicago Bears wanted to interview McCarthy when he was still under the final week of his contract with the Cowboys. Permission denied. But hey, he's a free man now. And he's going to be, more than likely, DRS, in the greater Chicagoland area today at Hallis Hall to interview for the Bears head coaching vacancy. It's not so much Mike McCarthy, the Cowboys head coach who spent 5 seasons in Dallas. It's Mike McCarthy, the former Super Bowl winning head coach of the Green Bay Packers, maybe now becoming the next head coach of the Chicago Bears?
Yeah, I think it would be a bad move for the Chicago Bears. Like, you need the next up-and-coming superstar coach that can relate to your young quarterback and advance things here. It's clear that Mike McCarthy can't do that. I mean, what's his last playoff victory? 2016 at this point. Do or die in the NFC East here. Yeah, you might win a division or two, but you do nothing in the playoffs. But for me, as I get back to the Chicago Bears and why he should be interviewed there, just ask him questions. Hey, man, you coach in this division. You won actual playoff games with that team in that division, and you played us and absolutely beat. I think, by the way, Mike McCarthy's beaten the Chicago Bears more than anybody else and any other team in his career. How did you keep beating us here? We're not going to hire you, but we just want to know how you keep beating us because we have no idea how to win anything in Chicago. I don't mind the interview. Pick the guy's brain, but he better not end up on that sideline. I'll tell you that.
As it included there in the report from NFL Network's Tom Pelissero, 19 wins against the Bears, the most of any franchise that McCarthy has coached against in his NFL head coaching career. Can we go back to the clip reel, the B-roll of Mike McCarthy? Because the opening image, come on. That's great work. Whichever guy behind the scenes made that for us here on the SportsGrid network, that is perfect. John Grill, a grill roll, that is fantastic. Great work right there. But DRS, 5 years in Dallas. Outside of that, though, 18 NFL seasons as a head coach. He has been there a lot. He has had a ton of success. Some of that has fluttered a tad in the postseason, and not just with Dallas, where any head coach that has once had success in the playoffs goes to lack that success at the start, but toward the end of his career in Green Bay, that started to fade as well. Could you blame Aaron Rodgers? Sure, but they did win a Super Bowl championship together during the 2010 NFL season. And there has been some conversation from those around the National Football League that believe Mike McCarthy, a great offensive mind who works very well with quarterbacks, would actually be a really good fit for the number 1 overall pick from this past April, Caleb Williams, who showed some promise, but of course, a disappointing season overall for Chicago. The Bears had a preseason win total of 8.5, expected to be the team that the Commanders ended up being with Jaden Daniels, perhaps. It was a lackluster season in the Windy City, and some have actually projected Mike McCarthy would be a great fit to bring along Caleb Williams and this offense.
It sounds good, but like, what are the goals here for the Bears? It's to, hey, come in and just steady the ship. We won't win anything, but my quarterback will like this guy and we'll try to advance. Let's understand this too. If we equate it, let's move around to, let's just say, the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. If I would have told you right now, the way Mahomes is, and you go, he's got 1 Super Bowl right now with Mahomes. You're like, okay, that's all right. And he's been there since 5-6 years, let's just say, with Patrick Mahomes. But the fact of the matter is, like, if Andy Reid gets fired while Patrick Mahomes is in his prime, you'd say, boy, I don't know about that coach here. I have the same feelings about McCarthy. Like, young in Aaron Rodgers' career in 2010, you won a Super Bowl. It's like, how many is this guy going to absolutely put up? Only to find yourself in 2018 getting fired midway through the season, was still with a prime Aaron Rodgers. That's the stuff that I start to ask the questions for, because this isn't one of those, we caught lightning in a bottle and we just had a magical season with Aaron Rodgers. That was a team that actually came in as a wild card. Like, wow, wait till they actually get healthy and add players around Aaron Rodgers. They were sensational in the regular season after that moment of winning the Super Bowl, and they never were able to get back and win a Super Bowl. Those are the questions that I have. This wasn't like, hey, I built a good defense. I got Trent Dilfer, a quarterback, never could find a franchise guy. You might have had the most talented player in the history of the sport, and you only got to 1 Super Bowl. That's the questions that I have about Mike McCarthy.
Listen, I'm all for a couple of Trent Dilfer shots here on this Wednesday on the early line as well. But, Donnie, I do think it is a sound point. Again, the Bears, based on the talent on the roster, outside of the quarterback position, although we projected Caleb Williams perhaps to have a better year than he did, but I still don't think it was as disappointing as it might have looked at times, but it was an 8.5 win total for the Bears. The over had the juice at -150, expected to have a winning record and perhaps contend for a playoff spot around the NFC. We know how difficult the NFC North was this season. 3 teams that finished with 11-plus wins. It is probably going to be the case moving forward in the NFC North as well. But I do wonder what the Bears' win total is entering next year, because a lot of that talent is expected to return in year over year in a franchise with a rookie quarterback entering his sophomore season in the NFL, probably expected to take an uptick in production as well. I still would think, Donnie, those around Chicago would be disappointed if the eventual hire was Mike McCarthy. I still believe those around the Bears organization are fixated on one guy and one guy above all else. That's the offensive coordinator in the Motor City, the Lions' Ben Johnson.
And also, you're right about this. You do have an opportunity for your fans to say, you know what, guys, we really messed up. Now, I would love to hear from Bears fans because I want to assume they're the same as me at this point. When Eberflus came back, like, what are we doing? We had maybe the most appealing job over the past 5 to 6 years in the NFL that could have opened up. And it was one of those where it's like, yeah, we could have made one phone call to Jim Harbaugh and he'd have been absolutely, I'll be the coach here. Wouldn't you be in a better spot here? So if you hire a guy like Mike McCarthy, we're not saying it's not going to work out in your favor, which means Caleb gets back to being a good quarterback that we saw in college. They're starting to make playoff runs. That's one thing. But you owe it to your fan base to get them fired up. But guys, we messed up. But I think we hit a home run. You can't introduce Mike McCarthy as you just hit a home run because he won more games against your franchise than anybody else. The Bears are a loser organization. Hire a winner in town that's going to take care of business and command that organization and that city. The Bears fans deserve that, man. They get sold short every year by bozo decisions from that ownership group. Give one to the fans for once.
If any of the head coaching vacancies go to the Lions' hot coordinators, it's going to take a while to fill as well. Plenty more around the NFL next.
Talk about it failing and always putting the square peg into the round hole. We're going to run it. We're going to try and play these lower scoring games. They didn't score over 17 points in the 5 straight losses.
There's a chance for the Ravens to exercise every single demon on their way to a Super Bowl. But it also means the path is very difficult and things are only getting started.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
It's going to be copy-paste. Books are not good. Win total's a tick too low. Knock it right over. Make playoff price tick too juicy. Bang it out. Postseason comes around on a tee. Knock their heads off.
I don't think the Steelers organization just makes a move to make a move. They have to have, it's like being in the book. You have to know what you're going to move the line to.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Jimmy Butler wants to leave because Jimmy Butler knows that Riles isn't going to pay him, and he wants to get paid. Simply put, if they would have given Jimmy Butler this contract extension in the summer when he asked, this wouldn't be happening. But Riles did it, and Riles wanted him to play. So now he's disgruntled because he wants out.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Statement from Giants president John Mara. Joe Shane and Brian Daboll will continue in their respective roles with the organization. As disappointing as the results of the season have been, Steve Tisch and I remain confident in the process that Joe and Brian have implemented.
The Giants, an absolute train wreck, and I love it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The season has come to a close for many around the National Football League. 18 that did not qualify for the postseason, 6 teams that were bounced during the opening round in Wild Card Weekend, which has been a similar theme for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Last playoff win for the Steelers, 2016. 4 playoff appearances in the last 5 years. Not a single postseason victory to show for it. We'll talk big picture. Mike Tomlin, his future in the Steel City after 18 completed seasons as Pittsburgh's head coach. But DRS, the Steelers have a lot to figure out offensively once again this offseason. Here was Mike Tomlin yesterday in his postseason press conference about the future of the quarterback spot for the Steelers.
You know, obviously, we don't have a quarterback under contract, and so we got some major discussions there. It was a really good experience with the 3 quarterbacks that were on our roster this year, individually and collectively. We certainly are open to considering those guys, but there's a lot of work ahead of us. And the major work, obviously, starts first and foremost with just understanding what our options are, what the field looks like in terms of free agency, what the draft pool looks like, and then beginning the process in terms of decision-making based on, known variables. And so, Omar and I have got a half a day carved out here this week just to begin that component of the discussion.
Really good points by Mike Tomlin, I thought, right there. Here's a couple of answers. Draft pool's not great if you're not drafting in the top 2 for a quarterback to invest to in your future. It's Cam Ward, it's Shedeur Sanders. After that, a lot of questions in the 2025 quarterback class. And then for free agency, also not great. Kirk Cousins in a trade, perhaps. Sam Darnold. Is that even better than Russell Wilson? I'm not entirely sure. Donnie, try to answer some more questions for Mike Tomlin. What would you do with the quarterback room in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, it's got to get younger. And he said, well, Justin Fields isn't that old. I understand that. But it almost seems like Pittsburgh is at a crossroads right now with their franchise and with Mike Tomlin. I'm sure Mike Tomlin can bring Russ back next year. They probably would have a winning record because Russ will give you decent football. You'll play good defense. You'll beat some bad football teams. You'll upset some teams. And then you'll be the same team once you get to the playoffs. So I understand how tough it is for Mike Tomlin to say, boy, like there's not a lot of options that we have. Otherwise, they would have already had one of those options under contract by saying, hey, you know what? Let's already get these extensions done midway through the season with Russell Wilson and or Justin Fields. And bringing Fields over to say, let's get a look-see from him. You saw him a couple games. It was clear Mike Tomlin doesn't like the football brand that Justin Fields brings to the table because it was just about winning, which Mike Tomlin really is about. He didn't just say, well, this guy's been winning football games. I can't play. He couldn't wait to get Russell Wilson back. But also understand this, too. They did go young with Kenny Pickett. Did they sell him short? And I'm not saying Kenny Pickett is the next end-all, be-all. He was going to be Ben Roethlisberger. But it was almost like, would they have been better off this year if they just had Kenny Pickett for another year in the NFL as opposed to what they got from Russ and Justin Fields and now being back to square one? Because he is right. They have a lot of conversations, and you're right, too. It's not like, well, hey, we inherited the number 1 overall pick. We'll take Cam Ward or we'll take Shedeur Sanders and we'll be just fine. There's slim pickings out there because you can just get a veteran guy and win football games. But are the Steelers fan base ready for that again? Like, hey, great, we got a veteran. No chance to win a Super Bowl, but we'll be competitive on a week-to-week basis? That's tough.
It doesn't matter really who is playing quarterback. An aging Ben Roethlisberger in the final couple of years of his tenure that came to a close in 2022. Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, still good enough to get the Steelers to a playoff berth. It is often the thing, Donnie, and again, we'll talk more Steelers in the future, but you are plagued by your own success. You consistently win games. You never have a disastrous or failure of a season where it's like, we really got to peel this back and build it up from the ground level. They haven't had the opportunity to do that. 18 seasons under Mike Tomlin, never a losing record, never fewer than 8 wins. How could you stare at your fan base and say, guys, what do you want us to do? We keep winning football games. We keep appearing in the postseason. But, Donnie, it's clear. The thing holding the Steelers back from being a true conference contender around the AFC, maybe playing for a Lombardi trophy once again, is the offense and namely the quarterback position.
Yes, and that's what. Look, you either have a quarterback or you don't. And understand Mike Tomlin is about an organization that's going to have stability. And you like that. They don't hire head coaches all that much. They stick with them, and there's something to be said about that. But at the crossroads here where you're asking your fans, like fans do want to have a week-to-week competitiveness where every year you enter into the season like, yeah, we're going to have a good team. But at the same time, you don't want that MO to be like, well, it's going to be fun, but we really know we don't have a shot to go deep unless some crazy things happen. unless you have a quarterback, same thing like a goalie in hockey, you're not going to win very many games here at this point, particularly when you absolutely need to win them in the playoffs in crunch time. You got to be able to lean on somebody. Steelers can't lean on any one of these quarterbacks they have.
It's time for buy or sell in the NFL. It's time for hour 2 next.